Hey, howdy, and a big welcome back to Clemhawks, folks. I'm Yak, ready to take you through another edition of Minnesota Twins discussion. I was discussing the Oilers in the last video earlier today out at the Ball Diamonds, but we're done with that. C semifinalists, hard go to get there, but we got the job done, and hey, we got there. We played 4 ball games on a Sunday, and you folks cheering on the Minnesota Wild are just getting to know my face, but let me tell you, from a personal perspective, I've never played 4 ball games on a championship Sunday in my life. Nonetheless, in 85 plus degree heat. So we're done. And the Minnesota Wild, while we were doing that, so Clem hasn't enabled me having access on my phone as of yet, which is fine. But the Minnesota Wild, as of this morning, have signed Mitchell Chaffee and Nick Swaney. I said that funny because Chaffee. I'm still not sure how to say Mitch's name, so please apologize. Somebody please give me the details if you could. Somebody give me a pronunciation. My Oilers fans have been so gracious to me over the years to give me pronunciations of the prospects. Friends, I'm asking for pronunciations if you have them, and corrections as well. Just forgive me, this is a learning process. You can't start out doing something new without screwing up. However, you saw it in the title. I don't need to spend more time on trying to pronounce names. Quite simply put, these two guys are back in the fold. They were the last remaining unsigned players within the organization for the Minnesota Wild. So everything is good. Everything is gold. These two 24-year-olds in Mitch and Nick are back in the organization for yet another year. Both waivers exempt this season, signing $750,000 contracts with the Minnesota Wild. There you go. That's the details. So now you've got everything figured out, right? And as the Oilers today made a move, the Minnesota Wild make their move and sign 2 guys. Now, as long as those guys remain in the minors, they do not count at all against the cap hit. So you had to set aside $1.5 million worth of cap hit for them, which the Wild did with 4.3, and now suddenly here you go. The rest of your offseason is fair game. And this was kind of like I said in this morning's video about the potential PTOs, the potential everything, is you still need to add 2 forwards to your roster if you're the Minnesota Wild when it comes to having an opening night lineup of 23 guys, right? You'd have 13 forwards, 7 defense, maybe an 8th defense, more than likely an 8th defense to start the season, and your 2 goalies in Fleury and Gustafsson. So that's fine, right? You got your 13, maybe a 14th forward instead of an 8th D. I really don't know what Minnesota's going to do there this year, but there's a little bit of options there. But if you're sitting on total roster 11 forwards, obviously, yeah, you know who's not up there on cap friendly right now? Marco Rossi, who will 100% be in the organization's top tier with the Minnesota Wild game 1 of the season. Great. All right, so that's Marco Rossi. Well, you've got also Liam Ogren, who just signed his entry-level deal. Both these guys, right, if you're talking just those guys, carry cap hits of over 8.5 or 850,000. That's what I was trying to say. So you're talking guys that are combined, even if both of them are up there, are going to chew up 1.7 of your cap. Okay, right, that's not too bad. You still got about $2.6 million to play with. So the Minnesota Wild, really, Bill Guerin's got a decision to make. Does he try and go out there and get a guy who's going to be a bottom 6 difference maker now? Or, like I said in the video earlier this morning, as Bill Guerin, do you look to be the team that invites 4, 5, 6 guys to camp, right? Whether it be on ATOs or PTOs, and say, hey, I've got cap space for 2 of you. Go out and impress me, right? Find that $1 million 15-goal scorer. Because that's based on what we're looking at with the Minnesota Wild. That's what they're going to need out of that $2.6 million cap hit left once you add 2 more roster forwards, because you simply do not have the room to go out there and sign one guy that you're going to hope is going to be a 15-goal scorer. You got to find that guy, and that's where I keep going with this PTO angle, because it makes sense at current to just hold off, don't make another move, and wait till camp and tell a couple guys, I've got room for you. You just have to make your case. And quite honestly, I look back as an Oilers fan to Alex Chiasson, the season he had after his PTO in Edmonton, and that was exactly what I'm trying to base this conversation off of with the Minnesota Wild. So now we go back to Mitch and Nick, the two remaining RFAs that have now signed one-year deals at $750,000. Guess what? Everything's secured. You need to add 2 roster forwards to the NHL, meet your cap, and away you go. Or maybe a defenseman. But you're looking, right? That's your combination. That's your math. You have $2.6 million in cap. It's a question of what you do with it. But simply put, there's 2 good scenarios. You find that guy. Maybe that guy's still hanging out in free agency if you're Minnesota. I don't know what the pro scouts in Minnesota are saying. I don't think anyone does because no one's saying nothing right now. But that's where we sit. Whereas, right, you get closer to camp. You know there's guys sitting on their hands. And with the Minnesota Wild team you've got, right, Rossi's going to be there. You've got Kaprizov, Zuccarello, Eriksson Ek, Foligno, Greenway, Jost, Hartman, Gaudreau, Boldy, Dewar, and Duhaime. You've got guys that are skilled. You've got a very young team up front. You want to read the ages. That list I just read you, 25, 34, 25, 30, 25, 24, 27, 21, 23, 25, and you're talking about adding an 18, 19, 20-year-old or 2 of them to that roster. That's a very young roster up front for the Minnesota Wild. It would make sense. You probably want that guy that, hey, comes in, he's the older guy in the room, whether he be 35 plus or he's even over 30, and he just comes into the room, works his tail off, shows these kids during camp, your spot's not guaranteed. I've been around a long time, and I'm working harder than you, and I'm going to earn a contract because of it. You get where I'm going? It's really a great narrative to drive because for the Minnesota Wild, it's tremendous upside, very, very little risk. Whereas, right, what I'm saying right now, if Bill Guerin goes out and gets the guy he's targeting currently today, tomorrow, the next day, well, now, okay, he's signed up. You build up expectations based on what he's done in the past, and you don't kind of let it happen naturally. And I think with $2.6 million in cap, sitting the way the Wild are, you want to try and let it happen naturally because that would be great stories coming out of camp. Kind of have a great guy kind of come in and be that room guy. Kind of just solve your own problem by letting it figure itself out at camp. That's all I'm arguing there. But folks, Mitch and Nick back in the fold. Very little question marks left, right? It's either Guerin's got a guy that he's going to push. When that guy's price drops, bang, good to go. Maybe there's 2 guys he wants that are just taking their time, talking to everybody and trying to find the best fit. Fair. But the best case scenario here is you invite like 3 or 4 guys to camp on PTO, push the young kids because you have a ton of them, and sign 1 or 2 of them to be potentially one of those 2 guys, a 15-goal scorer for $1 million, and really go out there and change the complexion of your team just by showing up to camp and working his tail off. Anyway, I've had enough. I've played 8 games in less than 48 hours. I'm over it. Folks, have a great evening. We'll have the home run derby. Yes, you heard me right. We're talking Wild, but we'll have the MLB home run derby. My live reaction, live here on Clemhawks tomorrow night. I'm up on out of here.